Today we're gonna talk about some tough stuff because, let's be honest, we're all going through a tough time right now. And even as we start to see the light at the end of a dark year, there are stresses that come with it. What will the future hold? How will we move forward? Whether the past year has set back your schooling, put a pause on your work, or caused you loss or pain or anger, you're not alone. And it's totally normal to worry about how these things will impact your future. But what if 2020 didn't have to be a big gap on our resumes or a period of darkness? What if we could all pinpoint the places where we've grown, where we've learned, where we've tackled tough stuff and given ourselves grace over the past year? And what if those experiences became a guiding light for what we can do and where we can go next? Over the past 20 years, we've talked to people who've been through all kinds of personal and systemic setbacks. But they've showed us that even when a situation is totally overwhelming and out of your control, there are silver linings. You can still use any experience to learn and grow. Let's dive into these stories and talk about some tips on how you can break through to that silver lining mindset. If you take a minute and really look back on the past year, we're betting you actually discovered a new interest or learned something totally new about yourself. Or maybe you just learned that you have the capacity to handle stress, grief, or chaos in a surprising way. These kind of learnings are the places where you'll find your next real passion and where you can find that spark that will push you into the future. For Jarrett Adams, this spark came at one of the darkest times of his life. He was stuck in jail after a false conviction. But he decided to use his time in prison to read and learn as much as he could about his own case. And in doing so, he didn't just learn that he had a legitimate shot at innocence. He also found a world where he could make a difference way beyond his own experiences.
My name is Jarrett Adams. I'm an attorney with the Innocence Project, but before I was practicing law with the Innocence Project, I was actually writing the Innocence Project from a prison cell with a 28-year sentence. I had a court-appointed attorney, and it directly affected my experience with the criminal justice system. I was in prison for almost 10 years before the Wisconsin Innocence Project answered one of my letters. They argued on my behalf. My conviction was reversed, record expunged, and I was released in 2007 in February. Sometimes people's callings call them. And in my case, me being an attorney and litigating on behalf of people who have legitimate claims of innocence was naturally a calling that called me after going through it. You have to find out what it is that will wake you up in the morning.
That spark to propel you into the future doesn't have to be something totally new. It can be something you were already considering or pursuing before our lives got put on pause. Just make sure you find something that will inspire you into action and propel you forward. If you're still processing, grieving, or just plain burnt out, we don't want you to feel like you need to immediately jump into action and work to find the positive. Take the time you need. But remember that sometimes when it's time to move forward, our own minds will throw up mental blocks that hold us back. So if those feelings start to creep in, acknowledge when you're being too hard on yourself and stand up to those negative thoughts.
So when you have those negative thoughts, you have to remind yourself they're there, and they're always gonna be there, but I choose if I believe them or not. And this is the greatest idea that you can really start understanding, right? You control your thoughts. Your thoughts don't control you.
Sometimes the best way to move forward is by throwing yourself into new challenges. Finding new opportunities may mean getting more training or education, but this is the time to make that pivot. Because if you're feeling burnt out or unfulfilled, building new skills or studying something new can lead you to work that is much more rewarding.
So I discovered I had ADHD almost 5 years ago. So I was in my early 50s. And I had spent probably 13 years feeling like something was just a bit odd, like it was like there was something going on and I couldn't put my finger on it. I was at a bit of a crisis point in my life because I didn't know I had ADHD yet, but it's like, I know I can't do this business thing anymore. And I was trying to figure out what to do next, and I was sharing with my executive coach at the time. I was interested in going into coaching, but I didn't really know how to do that. And he mentioned that there's a program at the University of Sydney in coaching psychology. So that seemed perfect for me, and that's what I did, and used that to make the career change. And then I made the segue into coaching adults with ADHD. So through that experience, I began to realize that I had something unique to offer.
Getting the support you need doesn't mean you necessarily have to go back to school or learn a whole new trade. It can mean starting small. Finding a community or a new passion or hobby, all of these things can support you through tough times. For Scout Bassett, the support she found in the Paralympic community didn't just grow her strengths as an athlete. It also showed her that she could be a role model and inspire others to push through.
So I grew up in Nanjing, China, and when I was a baby, I lost my right leg in a fire. And shortly after that, I was just abandoned on the street. But fortunately for me, I was adopted when I was 7 years old and came here to the States. And when I was 14 years old, I got involved in running because of the Challenge Athletes Foundation. I received a running prosthetic. I got out there and I started running and I realized, like, I love to do this. This is so liberating, this is so freeing, because here I am out and this is who I am. I don't think you ever get to one moment, have one experience, and you totally accept everything about who you are and you love absolutely everything. That's a lifelong journey. But I think the start of that is finding something that allows you to be you. The Paralympics for me has been life-changing, getting involved in that, competing on the highest level of sport and realizing that even though I'm an athlete that has a disability, I can have such influence and power and can really motivate people to do, huge things with their life.
Coming off of a year of stress or pain, it may be surprisingly easy to throw yourself back into the work. Maybe you identified your spark immediately and you're ready to start moving forward, like right now. The key will be to hold on to that feeling and use that fuel to help you make slow, continuous progress toward the light or change you want to see. Because as we enter the next year, there's going to be a lot of quick growth and quick burnout. So find that spark, but also be careful to remember and honor what was hard so it can keep feeding your fire.
And I moved to Highland Park in 2003. And lived in a house on Rhode Island Street and was raising my family and everything and had another business. Now, I watched this blighted block for several years, actually. I mean, trash, mattresses, just everything. It looked nothing like it looks right now. And then my little boy, his name is Jacoby. He was hit by a car, hit and run driver. He got killed. He was 2 years, 1 month, and 6 days old. So after he died and everything, I realized, I don't have to live like this. I don't care what nobody say. I don't care if money is short here or there. We're gonna get up and we're gonna at least clean up. So that's what I did. My purpose was to come over here to transform the block. Make my nonprofit organization in this house. Simultaneously, I built the ministry and I built the park for my son, Jacoby Rye. So this place looking the way that it looked, it took about 8 years to clean it up. Well, one thing it takes is time. Just like you said, nothing happens overnight. So when you have a plan in your head, you don't have to rush at it. And I don't rush. I did one lot at a time. I rented dumpsters. Anybody that wanted to help can help. We gave them free lunch, the guys over here at the rescue mission. And you're talking about overcoming stuff. It helps me with healing with my son. This is something that I can just change my grief into glory, basically.
It's true that we can't control what happens to us. We can't see what kinds of bumps, obstacles, or worldwide pandemics may be in our future. But we can always control our thoughts, our perspective. And that's the key to finding your silver lining and moving forward into something new. If you're trying to figure out what comes next for your future, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories and career advice to get you on your path.